I became a fan of Mutant Mudds almost instantly upon playing the original game on the 3DS back in 2012. The straightforward Mega Man style platforming, the precise controls, the nuanced level design, the funky pixel graphics and catchy chiptune soundtrack, quite frankly, there was a lot to love. Fortunately, Mutant Mudds did well enough for developer Renegade Kid to follow it up with an expanded version of the game called Mutant Mudds Deluxe 1 year later. Aside from introducing the series to owners of non-Nintendo hardware, Deluxe also added new levels populated by ghostly enemies that could be avoided or stopped temporarily, but never destroyed. This brought a new kind of challenge to the series, as enemies would remain a constant threat no matter how sharp your platforming skills were. That brings us to today, with Mutant Mudds Super Challenge promising to offer an ultra-hard culmination of everything that has come before. Super Challenge has been described by Renegade Kid as their version of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, designed specifically for Mutant Mudds superfans who have conquered the original game and Deluxe but still want more. But does Super Challenge deliver on everything it sets out to do? Well, yes and no. Super Challenge certainly delivers more of the high-quality 2D platforming gameplay you've come to expect from the series, and it's definitely aimed at seasoned players and fans more than anyone else. Super Challenge brings the platforming pain right from the get-go. Even the opening levels include relatively advanced jumps and general trickery that is reminiscent of the original game's later levels. This advanced degree of difficulty is maintained and gradually jacked up throughout the game, with things getting particularly brutal in the last couple of levels or so. However, taken as a whole, I have to conclude that even at its hardest, Super Challenge never quite eclipses the original game in terms of difficulty. It's certainly harder throughout, but Super Challenge's hardest part still feels slightly more manageable than the original game's most punishing areas. I even went back and replayed the original game's final levels to verify this. Rest assured though, that Super Challenge is still plenty hard, it's just not quite Lost Levels hard. Regardless of how ultra hard Super Challenge is or isn't though, it's still a shining example of Renegade Kid's ability to make a high quality platformer. It's every bit as fun, rewarding, and straightforward as both the original game and Deluxe, with 100 golden diamonds to collect as well as a hidden sub-area to find in each level. Some of the golden diamonds are hidden within vaguely marked walls this time around too, so you'll have to keep your eyes open more than ever if you plan to collect everything and make it to the end of the game. The power-ups that had to be earned in the original game, a faster gun, extended hover time, and a vertical boost jump, are all available from the onset in Super Challenge, further cementing its role as a direct follow-up to the original game Sans training wheels. Just as before, you can only take one of these power-ups with you at a time, so you'll have to choose carefully depending on the challenges awaiting you in each stage. Besides making things slightly easier, you'll also need to use these power-ups to reach the hidden sub-area in each level. Sometimes these sub-areas are hidden in plain sight, but you'll always need to use one of the power-ups to reach them. Just as before, each level's sub-area has its own water sprite instead of 100 golden diamonds to collect, meaning you'll have to find and clear every sub-area to make it to the end of the game. The sub-areas are also once again draped in either the red hues of the Virtual Boy or the original Game Boy's shades of green, serving as a nice throwback to the hardware of yesteryear. New to Super Challenge are boss fights, which were notably missing from the series until now. Unfortunately, they're a bit of a mixed bag, and I can't say I'd miss them if they didn't return for the next game. For one thing, they're wildly unbalanced. The first boss easily stood out to me as the hardest and most frustrating one in the game, requiring a considerable number of lives to beat. On the other hand, I defeated the final boss on my first try, much to my surprise and slight disappointment. Balance issues aside, only one of the bosses, the Ghost Boss, stood out to me as being truly memorable and entertaining to fight. Ironically, that's because you don't really fight it at all. Instead, you have to overcome an increasingly difficult series of regular enemies to earn the chance to damage it. The rest of the bosses rely too much on simple, one-and-done gimmicks that make them feel cheap and shoehorned in. Great boss fights instill you with a sense of accomplishment upon victory, but all I felt upon beating Super Challenge's bosses, other than the aforementioned Ghost Boss, was relief that they were over and done with. Another minor issue with the boss fights is the fact that you have to rewatch their opening animation every time you die. These opening animations are short, so it's not a big deal at first, but considering how many deaths you'll probably rack up against the bosses, it starts grating on you before long. A quick retry option that skips the boss's opening animation would have been very welcome here. I find it ironic that the boss fights represent Super Challenge's one real blemish, because those same boss fights are also the only truly fresh element that Super Challenge brings to the series. While the levels themselves are obviously new, almost everything in those levels is recycled from the original game and Deluxe. Disappointingly, there's not a single new enemy or hazard to be found in Super Challenge, and most of the visual assets and even a small chunk of the music are reused from the game's previous iterations. Now, to be fair, all of this is also true of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, which served as the direct inspiration for Super Challenge. But we're 3 games into Mutant Mudds now. It's time for something new. I'm not saying the core gameplay needs to be changed. After all, if it ain't broke, why fix it? At the same time though, Super Challenge makes it abundantly clear that Mutant Mudds needs an infusion of fresh ideas going forward. Indie retro platformers are a dime a dozen these days, but Super Challenge's music and graphics still manage to stand out amongst the crowd. The soundtrack, while not as catchy overall as the first games, is still full of quality Mega Man-style chiptunes that I was happy to crank out at full volume. As for the visuals, Renegade Kid has always touted this series' graphics as being 12-bit, and it's an apt description. Mutant Mudds' pixelated world is neither quite 8-bit nor fully 16-bit, settling for a fun, unique middle ground between the two. This is by no means a long game, but Super Challenge has a fair bit of staying power for those who want to see and do everything. In addition to simply clearing the 20 regular levels and 20 sub-areas, which will present a solid challenge even for platforming veterans, there's a total of 41 music unlocking CDs to find as well as 20 secret characters to discover. So while Super Challenge may not be particularly lengthy, neither does it overstay its welcome. It took me just shy of 10 hours to fully complete the game 100%, which felt just right to me. Super Challenge is being released simultaneously on the 3DS and Wii U, with the only real difference between the two being the 3DS version's stereoscopic 3D versus the Wii U version's high-definition output. The Wii U version, of course, supports off-TV play with the Wii U gamepad and also packs in Wii U Pro Controller support. I did notice one instance of the 3DS version's smaller screen real estate making it harder to find a hidden sub-area, so that's worth noting. It has to be said that the stereoscopic 3D in the 3DS version is truly fantastic, with the gameplay mechanic of jumping between layers of the foreground and background taking on a whole new level of cool visual context. You can't go wrong with either version though, and thankfully you don't have to choose between them. Like other Renegade Kid games, Super Challenge supports cross-buy, so buying one version of the game entitles you to the other for free. Overall, I liked Mutant Mudds Super Challenge. While it may not do very much to move the franchise forward as a whole, it stands as yet another high-quality entry in this series of uncommonly well-designed, charming 2D platformers. But at the same time, Super Challenge has pushed the original game's elements as far as they can possibly go. As good as Super Challenge is, the series runs a very real risk of becoming stale without an infusion of fresh ideas and elements in the next game. As always, thanks so much for watching, and if you like this review, please hit that like button and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find links in the video description below. Otherwise, keep it on GameXplain for more on Mutant Mudds and all things gaming.